Right. So let's start with where do we start? We'll start with potentially Virat Kohli and his shambles, because I feel, is it a question of this next? Do they not care? Or is it a question of this next? Do they not know how to defend? Or Akshay, is it this question? Do they take their place for granted? We will answer all of it, because I feel like, is it also the IPL which has crept into most of these guys and not biding their time like good old school cricketers? We can talk about it right now. So what do you guys feel about the recent shambles that we've seen, which is more repetitive? It's like almost you can close your eyes and think that this is going to happen over and over again. We can start with Kohli's. Nick, over to you.
And so to all those three questions, I think of course they can. Uh, of course they know how to defend. They are or not, that's a different debate. And are they taking their place for granted? That is something maybe for sure only they can answer. And I completely agree to your point about being repetitive. See, the one thing, just taking a backseat here in terms of context, that the one thing that you always like to see of people who have played so much cricket is how do they evolve. Now you look at some of the yesteryear players, and you saw how Sachin, evolved after a tennis elbow. You saw how Saurav Ganguly came. You saw how Rahul Dravid had a kind of a second wing, maybe that 1-2 that he had all alone. And you want to see how do these guys come back from something that's so obvious that okay, this is something that will trouble them. With Virat, I'm still waiting that how will he solve this problem that he's just batting one way. He's just anticipating that I want to play the cover drive. I will play the cover drive, but I'm getting out on balls that are not even going to bother the stumps. Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? How will he come back? Every inning, I'm looking forward to more leaves, but every inning, I'm seeing the same thing. So maybe it's my fault that I expect, but that is something that leaves a very weird feeling in me that this is not the Virat we knew. I mean, and again, I could be in isolation or minority here, but because whenever you saw Virat was challenged, he did something to change. Either it is doubling down on it or changing something that was like, okay, now I'm not going to play on back foot. He did something. In the recent times, though, I don't know if you guys feel that there is an obvious or clear change that this is what I will do to not do this. So to me, that is something that leaves a very. It's not a place that I ever thought I would be with Virat, especially, and the dismissal today. I mean, you look up to seniors to show the way, and it's not. I mean, how sad it is that all of us know what will happen, and for it to actually happen again and again and again, it is very. I mean, I'm sure he feels worse, far worse, because he's the one who's playing it. Maybe he's practicing it enough, but it's not coming out. Now, I don't know where do you draw the line that I will stop this. For the first 20, 50 balls, I will not play them. Nobody's saying do a Sachin Tendulkar. See, you have to be very contextual. That was played in a different era, on a different deck, against a different opponent. Things are not going to be exactly similar. But Smith did this in this very first test, in this very test. First 128 balls out, didn't play any shot into the offside. Just get yourself in. We saw what he did in Perth, but every time you're not going to get 84 overs. So I don't know what to expect, to be very honest. I had kept my expectations very low, and this is going even further down. So
the point that not only because it is coming from someone like a Virat Kohli, but given the context of what the series actually means, there's a lot more at stake and not just the series to be won. And I guess it will sort of become a bit more easier given that the last two tests are now going to be held in Melbourne and Sydney. So you would want to believe in some sense. Oh, that's actually good, Vishal. Kafi sahi statement. Yeah, Spotify वालों के लिए I just read it out loud. But it's like 10 साल से छोड़ा है यार. Why can't he leave balls outside the 5th and 6th stump? Completely agree with Vishal there. But it is very disappointing, and just the manner of those dismissals and call it the repetitive nature, call it what you want. It takes me back to this conversation. I heard or had, I don't even remember if this was second hand or first hand, but I remember a former analyst who's worked with Virat Kohli speaking about how it's not like analysts don't know Virat. Again, we're just I'm using this example. Jampe, a lot of conversations 2 or 3 years ago was about his game against spin and how he refuses to attack spin. He's got a very low strike rate, and all of that chatter was going about. When Virat was being spoken about. So tab wahi baat hui thi where the analyst said it's not like we don't know, and it's not like Virat himself doesn't know, but who is going to bell the cat? Who is actually going to have that hard conversation with him? Similarly, right now, it's an open secret that Virat Kohli has a weakness outside the off stump that not just Virat Kohli, I'm pretty sure even the backroom staff is well aware of. Now the question is, has anyone had a conversation with him? Firstly, because again, you need to understand it's not as simple as just going up to Virat, putting a hand around the shoulder and saying, "Ha, Virat, dekho yaar, aisa hai, waisa hai." It doesn't work that way, especially with senior players like Avnish mentioned. It also comes down to ego. There is always going to be a bit of ego. You might be the most humble person, you might be the most secure person. Even then, when you've done something for 15 years, there will, and especially at the highest level, when you've achieved what someone like Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma has achieved, आ जाता है थोड़ा बहुत. I wouldn't fault them for that. खुद में आ जाता है, हम थोड़ा बहुत ये कर लेते हैं, हमें आ जाता है. So now the question is he willing to change? I just don't know right now. I don't want to say that he's taking his position for granted, because knowing how these players train and practice and all of that, it would be a very stupid statement to make. But at this point in time, something really needs to give in. Like, either make a change. People talk about Sachin Tendulkar. I remember reading this stat just early this morning, or reading this tweet from way back in 12 this morning, jahan pe someone was talking about how average of Cheteshwar Pujara way back in 2012, Murli Vijay, Virat Kohli, all of these are averaging in excess of 50. On the other hand, Sachin Tendulkar averages 26, but he's still been playing Test cricket for India for the last 2 years. When will this be addressed? Similarly, now is the case with Virat Kohli, except the problem right now for Team India is, तब तो पुजारा, कोहली, विजय, everyone was scoring runs. अभी वो youngsters runs नहीं बना रहे, which is why now the onus is on Virat Kohli. The spotlight is on Virat Kohli. I'm not saying this is the reason, but which is why it's even more important basically for Virat Kohli to also perform. He cannot simply hold on to his position. तो अभी देखना पड़ेगा क्या होता है. I really hope he comes good, or I really hope Gautam Gambhir or Team India or the management have it in them to call a spade and say, boss, it's time for you to move on. We have to bring in new blood. Cricket!